Hey, what's going on, guys? Patrick Long here for PatrickLongRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. I'm happy to introduce one of my good friends, clients, whatever you want to label them, James O'Neill, who has been building the most insane real estate portfolio, leveraging that VA loan. So I just want to quickly introduce, say hello, James.
Hey guys.
Right on. All right, guys. Well, today in this video, we're going to be doing an interview with James because, like I said, he has an amazing story going over how he, started introducing himself to real estate and properly leveraging that VA loan to build an amazing real estate portfolio. So we're just going to jump right into it. James, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to fire off some questions so we can learn a little bit more about you. So you ready to do this?
Yeah, sure, man. If I talk too much, cut me off. So,
All right. Well, we'll see what we can do here. So let's start off with the first question. So James, tell me, I mean, I know a lot about you, but I want, our viewers to learn a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit about your background.
oh man, I guess pretty just hometown boy, from Indiana. Kind of grew up a preacher's kid, so that might tell you a little bit about me. Just always been really outdoorsy, kind of handy. I did a lot of landscaping and kind of stuff when I was like growing up. So always just been good with my hands, wanted to be out in the woods, love to hunt, love to fish, that kind of stuff. And I actually wanted to be a lawyer and an architect kind of growing up. But that didn't work out, as you'll find out. Actually ended up joining the Army when I was 20 years old. I'm currently captain in the U.S. Army, and I'm married. Been married for 16 years and have three girls. So yeah.
Fantastic. And where are you at right now? It's hard for me to keep up with you. Where are you located?
Yeah, so currently in Indiana. Yeah, not back on Hawaii. We're missing it right now. I think this is what January, so definitely feeling the temperature change. But
I
yeah,
got you.
in Indiana.
Right on, right on. Okay, fantastic. Well, let's jump into the juicy stuff. So how
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you even get into real estate?
So this is probably where you're gonna have to, cut me off a little bit. It was an interesting story. So I was actually in Missouri, at a Army school, which is called Captain's Career Course. And this was in 2020, and COVID actually hit. And at the time, the Army really didn't know how to deal with face-to-face instruction and then kind of transitioning that into online because it was never done before. So they were basically like, hey, don't come back to class until we figure out this pandemic stuff. And that kind of launched me into YouTube University. And I just went down the rabbit hole, man. I knew I was going to move to Hawaii. And at that point, I had only been living on installations. So I always just had, military based housing. And getting ready to go to Hawaii, I was just like, man, we should buy a house. And so that kind of started my journey.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I know that a lot of people have that similar transition where, they're always wondering like, well, should I just live on base? Should I rent? Should I buy a
Mm.
house? So what was it for you that made you make that jump saying, hey, you know what? I now want to actually buy something. Was it just because you were coming to Hawaii, or what was it that kind of changed your mind?
It was a couple of things. Just one, I was getting more comfortable with the idea of buying a house by going through YouTube University. And as I was watching that stuff, I was like, man, this really isn't that hard. I should probably do this. And the military pay scale is very predictable. And so I knew how much money I was going to get every single month. I kind of started looking at the real estate market in Hawaii and was trying to figure out how much house I could afford. And then one thing that just really caught my eye was just the Hawaiian market. I think at the time or that year was appreciating at like 6% per year. And I looked at the purchase price and then I looked at that 6% and I was like, oh, in 1 year, I would gain this much equity or my house is going to go up in value this much. And then I was just like, oh, we're doing this. And I called my wife and was like, honey, we're buying a house.
No, that's one thing that I always like when I'm talking to my clients, and again, 80% of my clients are in the military.
Yeah.
That's one thing that they really need to, that's usually the thing that changes their mind is when I explain to them like, hey, listen, you're getting tax-free money from the government
Mm-hmm.
where you can go buy yourself a Corvette, which a lot of them do, do what you want
Yeah.
with it, and just rent a place or live on base and not get that money. Or you can
Mm-hmm.
take that money and put it into a mortgage and basically create a second job. You know what I mean? Where you're creating more income that can come in. And once they actually make that connection, it makes it a lot easier for them to make that transition from, oh, I just want to rent, I'm only going to be here for 3 years, to, oh, snap, I can actually use that tax-free money to invest in a property and house me and my family. So I've heard that story a lot of times, but I'm glad to hear that that was the same epiphany that you had.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you really just like look at the numbers, it kind of makes sense. Like you could either rent, like you said, or you could buy yourself something with that same amount of money. That's going to basically be like your own savings account by the time you get ready to leave there. So you don't have to keep the house. You could sell it or whatever. You know, you're a realtor and everything. I'm like, hey, Patrick, help me buy this. Hey, Patrick, help me sell this. And so there you go. You got like 6% per year, and like that's money in your pocket. So why not?
Yeah, no, and just to reiterate that, on average, guys out here in Hawaii, different markets are different. So make sure you talk to a realtor in each different state that you're PCSing to. But out here in Hawaii, on average, 4 to 6% appreciation, and that's over 30 years of data. And as you saw in the last year, we saw somewhere between 12% and 27% appreciation just
Oh,
in 1 year.
yeah,
So
it's
some
been
people made
crazy.
out like bandits. It was absolutely insane. But you wouldn't have been able to cash out on that unless you got
Mhm.
in on a property. So I'm glad that you did that. And I know that that was like the first thing that really took you off. So let's jump
Yeah.
into a couple more questions. Okay, so making the step to actually buy a property is one thing, but how did you
Mhm.
properly learn? I know you said YouTube University, but was there any other resources you used when it came to learning how to properly leverage that VA loan to build a real estate portfolio and doing the renovation stuff? Like, how did you learn about that stuff?
So it started from YouTube University, and then it kind of transitioned into some other things. So once I got on YouTube, I started learning a little bit more about the VA loan, and then that kind of ran me into Bigger Pockets. I'm pretty sure maybe a lot of your listeners have heard about that, and if you have heard of real estate, you've probably heard of Bigger Pockets. So then I joined the Bigger Pockets group and community, and kind of just started going through the forums and stuff on there, like asking just multiple questions, reading other people's stories. And I kind of just took all of those things and started putting them together. And, you know, I'm an engineer. I told you, Army engineer. And like the numbers just made sense. And I kind of just charted out the way that I wanted to kind of execute. And then the rest is history from there.
I love it. So guys, just to recap, YouTube University, just start geeking out and searching for stuff. You'll probably find me if you're looking for VA
Yeah.
loans in Hawaii. Definitely check out Bigger Pockets. If you haven't heard of it, it's an amazing resource. They have all kinds of tools, a great community, great people to reach out to. And then also, small shameless plug, if you guys are looking to have an A to Z process when it comes to leveraging that VA loan and building a similar real estate portfolio that James has, I have recently created a course online that I sell. But if you guys comment down below, I'll send it to you for free. 50 plus videos going through the A to Z process when it comes to leveraging that VA loan. So comment down below to get free access to that. So let's move into the next question. Okay, so we kind of learned a little bit about how you got interested into real estate, some of the tools and
Mm-hmm.
resources. So tell me a little bit about your journey from the first project. And I don't even know how many projects you have now. Is it 8, 9, 10? I can't even keep up anymore. Bring us through that journey.
Yeah, so a great story, right? And sometimes I have to pinch myself and think about it and just be very appreciative of where we started to where we are now. So currently, I have 14 doors, which
Damn.
is 9 properties. So yeah, I've been kind of busy in the last 2.5 years ish. But I'm telling you, I really got bit by the bug. And the first purchase was the primary residence there in Hawaii. So that a little bit about that one. It was a foreclosure, and we bought that one definitely under market value, which was again right in the middle of COVID. So I think when they finally announced when COVID came out, it was around March 2020. I'm pretty sure I had it before that.
Mhm.
And then we moved to Hawaii that summer, right? So anyone that knows Hawaii is an island, it was locked down. That also put a dampen on the market. So not a lot of people were competing then.
Mhm.
So actually, I was the only offer for my house that was also a foreclosure. And so we just got a great deal on that one because there was no one to kind of compete against.
Yeah, so that timing for you, I mean, I always tell my clients, you can't time the market, it's about time in the market.
Yeah.
But let's be honest here, bro. Your timing was impeccable, right? COVID happened and the market dipped, and a lot of people were wondering what's going to happen. I don't know if I should make a move, sell my house, what have you. So there was not that much inventory, but also not that many people like competing to buy a house because they were scared of what was going on. And then as we saw, the Fed was like, oh, we need to stimulate the economy. So they dropped interest rates, and then all the market went crazy. But fortunately, you were there at the right place at the right time. So I'm super pumped that, you know, I think with anything in life, it's sometimes a little bit of hard work, but also a little bit of luck. And when those two come together, it can create a beautiful thing. And I'm glad to hear that it happened to you and your family. And that was amazing. So that was the first deal. Now let's quickly run through, you know, up to where you are now, how those worked out.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it quick. And so the second one was kind of awesome, right? Because as we purchased that first one in Hawaii, I was actually getting on the plane to Hawaii, and I had bid on a auction home online, and I lost the bid. So I was like, okay, cool, you know, no harm, no foul. At least we tried. Well, actually, I got a phone call as I was getting onto the plane to get on the runway to take off to Hawaii, and they called me and they were like, "Hey, you were the second highest bidder. Do you still want this house?" And I was like, "Yeah." So they were like, "Okay, we're gonna send you some paperwork and everything. This is what you got to fill it out." And I called my wife and I was like, "Hey, I need to do all this paperwork. I need to get Wi-Fi on the plane, and like when I land, I need to get a notary, and like we need to handle all this." And so yeah, that's how I actually got the second deal, was on the runway coming to Hawaii. So I had literally just brought my primary residence and then just bought another one as I was getting on the plane to come to Hawaii.
So that second one, was an investment property, correct? So
Yep.
did you use the VA loan for that one, or did you use, like, where did you get the cash for that one?
No, so I actually did use cash for that one. I actually partnered with my buddy. We were privates together. And I was like, "Hey, do you want to go half with me on this deal?" They just called me. And so, like I said, I stayed on the phone the whole time on the plane, literally constructing this deal, because I have a hard time saying no to opportunities, right? So I was just like, I'm going to figure out how to do this, but we're gonna make a way. And so it ended up working out, man. And that's how we bought our second property, which was an investment property.
See, the thing that's amazing about that, guys, is if you're watching this and you haven't purchased a property, the first one is always the hardest because you're over analyzing so much, you get scared. But as soon as you actually getting your feet wet, you start realizing it's not that difficult. It can be extremely fruitful. And another thing is that you can always find money. If you start surrounding yourself with the right people, with the right mindset, you can find money. If the deal's there, the money will come. Right. So I think that that's a beautiful thing, that literally you hadn't even landed yet or even gotten to your place yet, and you're already working on the second deal. And I know that ended, you know, 14, you said 14 doors right now?
Yeah.
14 doors in 2.5 years is extremely impressive. And I'm sure that came through a lot of connections, education, but also making that jump and going, okay, I can start doing this, leveraging those other deals. So, so before we, you know, was there one other deal that was really interesting that you'd want to bring up? Because 14 is a lot to cover. So what was one of the other deals, and what was the number? Which number deal was it? And tell me a little bit about that one.
So I guess another one that was pretty good. I would probably have to say Quadplex. So how we got that one was through a property manager. And you know, as we go down, this is number 6 on the list, so I won't go through all of them. But I had a previous relationship with this property manager. And again, when you know a property manager, she knows a lot of investors, people buying, people selling. So she brought us what was called a pocket listing. And she was like, "Hey, I know that you wanted a multifamily. I have one for you. Would you be interested in it?" And so we put an offer in it. We actually didn't get the offer the first time. Someone else actually put a higher offer than we did, but their financing fell through. And so she called us back and she was like, "Hey, their financing fell through. Do you think you can do this deal?" I was like, "Yep, I think we could do it." And so I called up another Army buddy of mine and was like, "Hey, I got a quadplex. Do you want to go half on this thing with me?" He was like, "Yeah." And so again, we kind of threw the money together, made a strong offer for that. Interest rates were just starting to tick up a little bit. So we purchased it just in time before like the market just went through the roof and interest rates started rising. So that quadplex was a really good one. And I'm a cash flow investor because I invest in Indiana. And so anytime when you can buy 4 doors at one time, you know, that's just a better return for you because now you only got one roof to repair. You got 4 tenants who can, you know, pay those costs of your expenses. And so it just comes out to be a great deal for you.
That's insane. I love that. I love that. And again, guys, just reiterating, especially if you're in the military, like you are crossing so many paths with so many people who are in similar situations, but sometimes you can't buy it yourself. And I'm actually in a deal right now that I'm looking to purchase with some buddies of mine, which is a duplex. And I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself, but with them, we can make it happen. And the equity was there. So again, guys, if maybe you can't do it yourself, but once you start putting it out in the universe and you start talking to people who are interested in it, you can make it happen. And James, you're a perfect example of that. And I love hearing about these amazing stories. So let's get into another one for you. Another question. Okay. So when you were going through, you know, YouTube University, you know, a lot of people talk about everybody's a real estate specialist. Everyone's a real estate specialist. But what were some of the myths that you heard and obviously got debunked that you came across when you were first starting, you know, your YouTube University and getting into real estate?
Yeah, so that was interesting. I actually ran into a lot of obstacles with that first VA purchase, which was my primary residence. One of the things is since that was my first home, I actually researched first-time home buyers grants. And at the time, and you know, no one's ever wrong, right? There's always a way to figure it out. And that's one of the things that I would encourage all your listeners to do is just surround yourself with multiple people, right? Just because someone doesn't know if it will work doesn't mean it will not work. That just means they haven't experienced it or they have never done it before. And you'll find a lot of people and agents, right, that just have never done it before, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So just keep searching for those answers. And then where there's a will, there's a way, right? So with that first one, we actually put a grant because I was a first time home buyer with my VA loan, right, which is 0% down, which was actually able to cover my closing costs. So you can couple all of those things together just to make a sweet deal. And you can see why that first deal just kind of sent me to the moon because we just did so many different cool and crazy things with that first deal. Another thing, myth with the VA loan, or that has changed. At the time in 2020, you could not pay for a termite inspection. All right. So when you're getting a VA loan, they won't allow you to cover the cost for the termite inspection. Well, if you remember, I said this was a foreclosure, right? So the bank already did not want to like ante up and pay any more money that they had out of their pocket because they were already on the losing end of that. And then the VA would not let me, the buyer, pay for it. So what I did is I negotiated with our mortgage lender for him to cover the termite inspections with the mortgage lender credits. So again, where there's a will, there's a way. One of the other things that we also added into that deal was the VA funding fee, right? So when you're getting a VA loan, there's a funding fee that's associated with your home. And my wife is actually a veteran, and she is VA disabled. And so if you have that, you're actually able to get that VA funding fee waived. So she was the primary person on the application so that we could use her VA loan, which I have my own VA loan, so we have two. Then we waived that VA funding fee, and then the seller credits or the mortgage credits covered our termite inspection. And then the last thing was we worked with our realtor because, again, it was a foreclosure. So normally each agent gets 3%, right, or 6%. And so with it being the foreclosure, we had to actually negotiate 3%, which meant 1.5% for the selling and buying agent. So a lot to unpack in there.
Yeah. So guys, just to recap that, everything's negotiable, right? And if you don't have the answer, somebody does. If the person you're talking to right in front of you doesn't have the answer, then it's okay to look in other angles, other resources, and make phone calls. So that is definitely a proof of concept that, you know, you didn't stop at the first door, you kept banging on other doors till you got the answer. So that's amazing. All right, so we heard about a lot of creative solutions you had. Out of all the projects you had, was there one? I mean, I can't imagine they were all perfect, right? So was there any project that has been extremely challenging for you, either currently or in the past? And tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, so challenging project. I actually have one that I'm working on now that was a challenge. So to start off, I was brought this deal by a wholesaler. So you know, if you're not familiar with wholesalers, you can kind of do YouTube University and find out what wholesaling is. So a deal was brought to me by a wholesaler, and he had it under contract, but he couldn't execute on that contract. Well, I'm from Indiana. The property was in Indiana, so I actually went to drive to the property and I met the owner. Once I met the owner actually wanted to sell it to me after it fell out of contract. But it fell out of contract because the foundation was cracked. So what I did is I actually called up a foundation company to give me a quote on how much it would be to repair it. And then I just did the back math and was like, okay, I could buy it at this much because I'm going to count in the cost that it's going to be to repair this foundation. So that was like obstacle number one, is like overcoming a foundation crack. The next thing was I negotiated directly with the seller. So there was no real estate agent involved. So this was an obstacle because I was like, I never have not used a real estate agent before. So I Googled a contract, went on eForms, and I literally just read through all the rest of my purchase agreements, because at this time, this was deal number 7. So I actually went through all my other contracts and kind of skimmed through them all and was like, okay, I'll put a little bit of that and I'll put a little bit of that and I'll add some of this and sprinkle that in there. And like, okay, this is a good contract. And I actually sent it to the title company and they were like, yeah, this looks good. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, shoot. So overcame that obstacle. So basically wrote my own contract. Indiana is not a lawyer state, right? So you do not have to have a lawyer involved to purchase property. It just has to go to a title company. And then the next thing, obstacle that was about that, is this thing needed like a full gut rehab. That foundation crack basically split all the joists in the floors. So we had to go all the way down to the joist, like rip out drywall, everything on it. I had to find contractors, went through 5 different ones, but finally figured it out. And yeah, now we're actually drywall's in, framing's in. They're going to start painting Friday. Today is Wednesday. So we hope to be done with that project in 2 weeks.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what I like to hear. And if you guys want to follow James's projects, I obviously follow him on Instagram. He's been posting updates and it's kind of cool to been seeing. I've been seeing you ripping up floors and looking at these joists and now seeing the drywall. I'm like, dude, he's right there. So
Yeah, man.
guys, I've got his contact information down below. I'll have on the screen his Instagram handle. So definitely check that out and give him a follow. But that's a great story. Okay. So obviously you've been doing a lot of real estate. Generally speaking, summarize for me, how has this changed you and your family's life?
Oh man, it's turned it upside down. You know, now that I think about it, it has been a way to create wealth, right? And you know, I still have my day job in the military. I'm at 17 years now, almost 18. So, you know, I'll be retirement eligible in 2 to 3 years. I have no plans on exiting the military, and that's what's so cool about real estate, right? Is I can still do it passively in my time off, and I actually enjoy doing that. So the military doesn't occupy all of my time every second of the day, but when I'm not doing my army thing, I am doing my real estate thing, right? And so it's changed our lives because now I'm able to kind of show my children and my wife that, like, hey, you can follow your dreams and achieve the things that you want to. And like they love real estate too. They love looking at the houses. They love like driving with me. You know, they love pulling up Zillow, looking at, you know, how much they cost, kind of guessing what they appraised for. I mean, we play Monopoly all the time now. And so, you know, and I'll tell you, man, my 10-year-old daughter is a beast. She like whoops me every time in Monopoly, buys all the houses on the blocks and like charges me crazy utilities, right? So it's just like a fun experience like for the whole family. And this has been something that's been able to translate into, something that I pass on to them, when I'm no longer here, to pass that on to my children, legacy, but then also just help out your friends and family too, because I love doing that too. I love being able to give them some words of wisdom and advice and how to purchase their first home, right? Because to a lot of people, that's the American dream, is to buy your own home. And I love being able to be a person they can count on to kind of help them through that process, or to use my network or people like you to refer to them to be like, hey, this is a really good guy. He'll help take care of you. And can you help him through this process? So, yeah.
I love that, dude. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I've heard it so many times. You can read as many, self-help books out there, how to get rich. But they always come back to the same thing. A huge pillar in building wealth, not being rich, but building wealth, is real estate. But it can be scary to make that first jump, but it's cool to see how it's transitioned into not only building wealth and creating somewhat of an exit strategy if you did want to leave the military, but also how it's like cool that you can show your kids like, hey, this is the way, at such a young age. Like I wish my parents taught me that so much younger.
Yeah, me too.
I know. And so that's freaking amazing. Okay, so let's wrap this up because this was jam-packed with a lot of information. So if you've made it to the end of this video, I want to know from you, James, someone who's actually in the ditches doing this, what is your words of wisdom to somebody who's maybe scared, a little bit on the fence and thinking about using that VA loan? What would be your words of wisdom?
I mean, my biggest thing that I would say is take that leap of faith, right? I mean, you've already raised your right hand. You've done something scary that 1% of other Americans do, right? So take that leap of faith, bet on yourself. It is your benefit, right? It's not a handout. It's not a freebie. It's your benefit, right? You're getting something for something. So don't waste it. The military, your service has granted you this benefit. So I would just say take advantage of it, and then just get with great people around you, because the real estate community, realtors, lenders, like they are some of the best, most giving people that I have ever known. And when I first got into this game, I was like, oh, everyone's just money hungry. They just want to take advantage of you. But it is the exact opposite. Like they're the most giving people that I've ever met in my life. And just like me now, we just want to give back and help everyone out. So like if you have questions, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's all these resources that are out there for you. You just have to take one step, and I guarantee you there'll be someone to back you up to take two.
Amen. From the preacher's son right there. Speak the truth. I love it. We're right on, James. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. If you guys have any questions, I've got the comment section down below. I've got James' information down below. Feel free to reach out to him or me if you have any questions. And thanks again, brother. I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck on the rest of your journey.
All right. You too, Patrick. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.